everyone, Bandit here. Welcome back to the channel. We're back in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And for my next flight, as promised, I'm going to do a flight in the Cessna, Twin Cessna Chancellor 414 by Flysimware. It's an awesome add-on. Highly recommended for anybody who's looking for a piston twin aircraft. Very, very highly detailed aircraft and very fun to fly. Has different panel options. You can use the standard aircraft setup, which just incorporates the GTN750, or you can use the TDS or the PMS50 GTN750s. In this case, I'm going to use the GTN750. You have to load in with a particular livery for each type of aircraft, depending on what you want to use. And I highly recommend using the working title mod if you're going to use the PMS GTN750. I've had some autopilot issues with the autopilot not working 100%, but using the working title mod, it works very well. So here we are. We're going to do a quick flight from Toronto to Albany. I chose this route because we're going to have to deal with some icing and some great anti-ice features on this aircraft. I wanted to show them. And yeah, we're here in Toronto. It's a windy, blustery day, a little bit of light snow right now. And we're going to head to Albany. It's a little better weather there, but we're going to have to go through some clouds, so we'll definitely pick up some icing on this trip. It's a great airplane. The external model is really nicely done. A lot of doors and panels work. You can open the engine panels, check the oil, open the fuel caps. Lots of cool features on this. You can do it by walking around. And I'll show you that in a real quick minute here when we hop inside. Yeah, so let's hop inside, get things going, and we'll get up on our way. If you're new to the channel, take time, hit subscribe, sign up for notifications. You'll see videos like this when I put them out in the future. For returning subscribers, thanks again for joining me, and hope you enjoyed today's flight. So let's hop in the cockpit and get things set up. Okay, here we are in the cockpit. All the features of this airplane are accessed through the tablet here, and works very well. So you can see it controls all your doors, equipment, got chocks and pitot covers installed. And you can also check your fuel filler caps. So if I check the or the oil doors, so if I check the oil, you can see pops up there. But you can also go outside and interact with this, and if you just go to the pre-flight inspector checklist and the checklist here, you can just go to a position on the aircraft, and I can just cursor around. I can access things and open and close things from outside. So we check the oil, close these doors, open these doors, and you can close the doors in the back here as well. Close the main cabin door. So it can all be accessed through the outside. Then you just hop in, so you can do a walk around and cover off all various aspects of the aircraft from the outside. It's really cool, nice feature. And I'm not going to do everything. I'll just clean everything up here. So we'll remove the chocks. We'll just close all the doors. Everything's all closed up, ready to go. For today's flight, ran a flight plan. We're going to be going from Toronto to Albany. And we need fuel of 467 pounds. So I loaded that in. And I'll just confirm the fuel here. So we basically got 78 gallons for a total of 470 pounds of fuel, so that's good for today's trip. We'll do our payload. We'll load our passengers in here, and I put in 2 passengers and their baggage and some wing locker bags. So that's all set, so the payload is all set. And we'll just use the, we'll say the pre-flight checklist is done, and then we'll start off with the before starting checklist. So I think we're all ready to go, and once we get the avionics power on, we can actually access these same checklists from the PMS GTN750. When you load in with the GTN750s, you get dual GTN750s, which is a nice feature. Yeah, so that's basically the airplane. Really nicely modeled. Detail, the cockpit looks great. The airplane is really nice. In the latest edition, they've even modeled some of the circuit breakers. I know they're talking about adding more, but right now I think these are the only circuit breakers that are modeled in the aircraft. Pretty much every switch, there's a few like these down here, don't do anything, but pretty much every other switch in this aircraft has a function. Very, very well detailed. Yeah, so let's start off with our before starting checklist, and we'll get this airplane programmed and head on up to Albany. Okay, cabin door we'll say is checked. Control locks are stowed. Seatbelt shoulder harnesses are all good. Fuel selector on the main tanks, so they're down in between here. So we'll put those on the main tanks. Okay, landing gear lever is down. Go back to the checklist here. Okay, landing gear lever is down. Props and mixtures will set, so we'll put the mixtures fully forward, props fully forward. That is good. All circuit breakers are in, so it's important now that some of these circuit breakers can be popped, and they're hard to see them all, but you want to check all your circuit breakers are in. Circuit breakers are in, and all the circuit breakers on the co-pilot side, so I'll just remove that yoke just to see those easier, so they're good. So back to, so circuit breakers are in, clock time will 0. Prop sync is off. Sync is off. And we'll put the flight time, 0 that, but I think the battery needs to be on for that. Okay, battery switch on. So we'll put the battery switch on. Gear position lights are green. And totalizer set. So you can see now we have actually 78.2 gallons, so it is good. So I must have had this fuel set okay from before, but what you need to do is you need to, I can just hit enter now and then we'll register with 78 gallons. But if you add fuel from the last flight, then you need to add the fuel into totalizer here. And we just check over here, we're just under 40 gallons aside, so that looks good. So I'll just set the totalizer, so I'll just hit enter because we are at 78 gallons, and I will just put it in pounds, and that's 470 pounds, so that looks good. Fuel totalizer set, parking brake is set, so now before starting engines. Okay, propellers are clear on the right, clear on the left. We'll get the magneto switches on, so 1, 2, 3, 4 mag switches are on, and then the engines will start. So what I'll do is I'll just move the tablet here. Okay, so to start the engines, all I'm going to do is, fuel's already on. I'm going to prime the right engine, so we'll start the right engine first. So I'll hit the primer for a few seconds, and then I'll just zoom back here as much as I can, and then we'll just hit the starter button, and it'll take a few seconds for it to catch as it turns over, and a good start. And we'll just watch the RPMs come up. Temperatures and pressures should start coming up. We'll do the same thing with the left engine. Sorry, left engine prime. And we'll start the left engine. And a good start on the left and right engine. So we'll let the RPM settle down. We want to get down to, let's set 1,000, about 1,000 RPM initially, just to get her warmed up. Pretty cold. Okay, that looks good. So the engines are started. We'll just go over and just check our T's and P's. So all pressure's coming up, temperatures are coming up. Cylinder head temperatures will take a little while to come up. Okay, that's good. You can also hear the engines really nicely by opening the window here. Sounds on this airplane are really good as well. Close that up. Lock that window. Okay, we'll get our alternators on. And we'll go back to the checklist here. So we'll get the tablet back out. And we'll go back to the before taxi checklist. The starting engine checklist is good. And the before taxi checklist, so avionics will turn on. And then what I'll do is I'll just leave this, and I will use the checklist from now on the GTN. So one more thing we can check here is your temperature in the cabin. It's pretty cool right now. It's only about, probably about 10, 15 degrees. So we can turn some heat on if we want to. So the cabin heat switch is right here. It's a gas heater, and then we can control the temperature right here. So I'll just set the temperature here. And you want one of these out so you need one of these cabin air vents open in order to have the temperature coming through the cabin. Okay, so we got that set. So now let's go in here, and you can add these checklists. For this aircraft, there's a checklist available on the PMS50 website. And if you go into utilities checklist, and here we got the checklist. So we go to the menu, and we can do normal procedures, and normal procedures. And we want the checklist. We'll start off, we're at the before taxi checklist. So avionics are set. Go to the next checklist. Taxiing checklist. So brakes are holding. Flight instruments will check. So all the flight instruments look good right now. And next will be the engine run-up checklist. So what I'll do is I'll load our route in the flight plan here now. And here's our route for today. So we're starting off at CYTZ. We're going to KALB. Okay, and we'll go to home, and we are going to do the departure will be the Maven 2 off of 26. So the Maven 2 off of runway 26. The transition will be to BIMFA. We'll load that departure. And then from BIMFA, we're going to ROC. That's Rochester. And then we're going to Syracuse, SYR. Syracuse. And then we're going to Albany, ALB. And Albany. That's our route. We'll look on the map here, and we'll zoom out. So that's the departure. We'll brief that here in a minute. And then Rycombe, out to BIMFA, Rochester, Syracuse, and Albany. So we can look at the whole route there. That looks good. Okay, so that is our route entered. We'll put it in a map. We'll select our GPS as our nav source. So now let's look at the departure. So the departure is going to be the Maven 2, and it's going to be off 26, climbing 2,000 feet on heading 262 to 800 feet, then left to MDOS, continue on a heading 150, expect radar vectors to Recon, and it's Recon, Kepta, and BIMFA. So if we look at that in our, so 262 up to 800 feet, and then to MDOS, manual sequence, and then to Recon. So that looks good. We can check that in our legs as well. So we go back to flight plan. And departure 26 up to 800 feet, then MDOS, manual sequence, and then Recon. So that looks good. So that is our route loaded. Let's set up our autopilot. So we're going to climb up to 2,000 feet. So we put 2,000 feet. The heading is going to be 262. set our course of 262 as well, because that's going to be our next little course on the GPS. Okay, so our autopilot or our navigates are all set. So I think we're ready to taxi, and then we'll do our run-up check. Okay, I forgot to turn the nav lights on. Get our taxi light on. Set our trims for takeoff. And we're going to taxi out for runway 26 here in Toronto. Well, I'll kind of just show you where we are here. We're just on the ramp here, so we're going to make a right-hand turn and just taxi out to runway 26. A little bit windy here today. Let's check the weather here before we go to, so we can check the weather. CYTZ. Get our altimeter. So right now it's 280, 19, gusting 27, so pretty windy. At least it's pretty much down the runway. Light rain and snow showers. Overcast, temperature 0, 3005, so we'll set that. Okay, and other altimeter as well. Okay, so altimeters are set. And we'll zoom in. It's nice having two of these GTNs here because you can do multiple things at the same time. Okay, so clear to the right, and we will release our parking brake. Taxi forward, just check our brakes are good. Yeah, the sounds are really nice on this airplane. Now it's not too bright out today, so I think I'll turn on my nighttime instruments just to brighten things up for the instruments here. Nice little airport here downtown in the Toronto Harbor here. Mostly small. Your jets aren't allowed in here, so it's mostly, there is an airline that flies Q400s out of here, but most of the flying would be small, light aircraft like this type of aircraft. Okay, we'll come up and we'll just hold short of the runway and do our run-up checks. I'll come up and I'll do a turn into wind here on the end here. Okay, we'll hold it here, get our parking brake set, and I think we're ready to do our run-up checks. Okay, run-up checks, we'll go to the checklist here. So throttles, we'll set 1700 RPM. Parking brakes are holding nicely. Okay, so we got 1700 RPM set on both engines. Left and right flow lights, so those are on your panel here. They would be, there's hydraulic left and right flow lights, so they're out. Alternators check, so we're going to go check our alternators. So left alternator, I turned it off. It's selected left alternator over here. It should go to 0, and it does. And then if I go to the right alternator, it should have all the load, and when I turn the left alternator back on, it should drop. That's good, so I'll bring the right alternator to 0. Back to the left. Left alternator has the load. Turn the right back on, it should drop. So the alternators are checked. Vacuum system is checked. It's above the red line. We have no red indications. That's checked. Magnetos checked. So we're going to check all 4 magnetos, and we're going to look for a drop of less than 100 RPMs. So on each magneto. So we'll check the left mag on the left engine. You see a small drop there, less than 100. Check the left mag on the right engine. You see a small drop there, less than 100. The right mag on the left engine, small drop there, and the right mag on the right engine. So magnetos are checked. Now we're going to check the propellers. So the propellers are going to bring back, and we're going to just look for a decrease in propeller RPM as we bring them back. There we go. Bring it back up. And just run it through a couple cycles just to make sure the oil is flowing good through the propeller controller. And same thing with the left engine. Okay, propellers are checked. Flight instruments, we're going to check. We got GPS selected. Flight instruments are all good. We got 2,000 feet set. Runway heading, all set. And throttles, we'll bring it back to 1,000 RPM. So that's our checklist. Good. So our run-up checklist is complete. Now we'll go through our before takeoff checklist, fuel quantity, and we have enough fuel for today's flight. Fuel selectors are on the main tanks. Just double check those. They're good. Emergency crossfeed shut off, and that's in the middle here, so you want to make sure it's down, so it is off. Cowl flaps are open, so they are actually closed, so we need to, they were left closed from the last flight, so this airplane kind of remembers the state it was in last time, so you need to check everything very thoroughly when you're doing these checks. Trim tab set for takeoff, and it is set for takeoff. Wing flaps are up, and we'll just confirm that the wing flaps are up, and they're over here. That's the only thing I don't like about this airplane, is it's hard to see the wing flap position indicator from the, there's the indicator, and there's the actual flap handle. So when I select the flaps down, you see the position indicator moves, and when I select them up, but it's hard to see from the left seat. It'd be nice if they had a position indicator over here somewhere, but anyway, that's the way it is. Okay, so the wing flaps are checked, prop sync is off, flight instruments are checked, and avionics are set, lights are good. Cab doors are all closed, pressurization set, so we're going to be cruising at 21,000 feet, so I'm going to set the cabin altitude, so the outside is the cabin altitude. I'm going to set the cruise altitude on the inside of 21,500 feet, so 500 above cruise. So that's good there, and we want to make sure we're in pressurized, and then we're going to monitor our cabin pressure on the way up, so that's good. So pressurization is good. Annunciator panel is clear, nothing's on. Auxiliary fuel pumps, we're going to put them in high. So that these are 2 pump switches down here. They're in high. Flight controls, we'll check those. We'll check our rudder pedals. And we'll check our flight controls as well. So flight controls are good. Ice protection, yeah, so we're going to need our pitot heat on. And I'm also going to turn on our window So I have a switch set up for that, so it'll turn on our prop de-ice and our windshield heat on low, and there's windshield heat on there. So that's good. Shoulder harnesses are set. And next is going to be the checklist. So I'll do this on the ground here, so we'll be a landing light on and strobe light on, so I'll get those. Power will set for takeoff, and then we'll check that our mixtures are showing fuel flow, that we're showing fuel flow on our totalizer up here. So that is the takeoff checklist, and then engine power will set, and then minimum control speed will check. So I don't want to be doing these while I'm flying, and then there's our after takeoff checklist. So I think we're good to go. So we'll just get ourselves all set up here, and so all I got left is my landing light, strobe light to go, taxi light off. We'll line up and get up on our way. Okay, parking brake is released. Get the taxi light off, landing light on, strobe light on. Yeah, I put the pitot heat on and the windshield heat on because it needs to be on in visible moisture when the temperature is below zero. So the temperature is right at zero. We're going to be right in the cloud here. So I'll get lined up. You do take off with the flaps up and rotates about 95 knots. So I'll slowly bring up the power, checking my prop RPM and my manifold pressure, and I want to go right up to forward max power 41 on the manifold pressure. So prop is looking good, manifold's coming up. So there's max power set. T's and P's are all good in the green. Airspeed's alive. There's 95 knots. We'll rotate. And pause rate, gears up. And we're above the blue line. I'll target like 120, 125 for the climb. And then we'll get our autopilot on. Indicated airspeed and nav. And above 800 feet, it should start the left-hand turn. So we got GPS, indicated airspeed, and I'm going to dial that back to 120. And there we're in the left turn now. 1,000 for 2,000. So we'll get our gears up and the flaps are up. We'll get our propeller RPM to come back a little bit here. For the climb, 2,500. And we're going to go to 3,500 on the manifold pressure. Climb power set, we're leveling off. We'll just let it accelerate. And it looks pretty good. Just hop outside here and have a look at the departure out of Toronto. So there's the Island Airport in Toronto. It's on this little island called Toronto Island, just off the in the harbor of Toronto there. Okay. So let's say we've been cleared to our first waypoint, which is Rycombe, and we're cleared to climb up to 210. So we'll go flight plan. Rycombe, direct to, activate that, so we're in the left turn, direct Rycombe, set 210 in our altitude, and I will go back to indicated airspeed climb, and I'll dial it back to 120 again. So there's 120, indicated airspeed climb, it's pitching up to get the speed back. Go back to the map, and track of 136 now is our course to Rycombe. So I'll dial that in our course window. Center up our heading bug. Okay, so it's come back to 120 knots, climbing nicely. And yeah, so that looks good. We'll get our transponder on actually, that should have been on. We'll put that on the recording. Okay, so the climb is looking good. Heading out to Rycombe and then on our course. And let's do our after takeoff checklist. So gear and flaps are up, yaw damper is on. Auxiliary fuel pumps can go to low. So I'll just switch those down to low. Ice protection is as required, so we got the pitot heat on, and I'll keep the windshield anti-ice on and the prop de-ice till we get above the cloud here. Not picking up any icing on the wings yet. Okay, landing light, we can retract the landing light. So it's a 3-position switch, so when I turn the landing lights off, it'll go back to off, turn the lights off, but you see the landing lights here are extended, and if I hit retract, and they'll retract. So that's our landing lights off. Prop sync, we'll leave it off till we get up a little bit higher. Actually, I've seen guys turn it on for now, so you can turn it on, and then all you need to do is if you change the props, just shut it off, change your prop settings, and then turn it back on. So that is it. Now we'll do the climb checklist. So we're climbing up nicely here. Gonna get above the clouds here momentarily. So climb power is set, 35-25. Mixtures, you don't have to adjust them. You can lean them a little bit. These are turbocharged engines, so it'll you can leave them up until you get to your critical altitude, which is about 20,000 feet. But if you want, you can reduce your fuel flow a little bit, and you can just watch your EGT, and you can take it up to about just lean them. I'm bringing the mixtures back. We'll just bring it up, and we will take it to about 1,500, and then the fuel flow will drop off a little bit there. So that'll reduce our fuel flow a little bit. So you can lean the mixtures a bit in the climb, but you don't have to. And then we'll lean them once we get up to cruise altitude. So CALB flaps as required. So here we'll check our cylinder head temperature, and you can see they're on the low side of the double green band here. So I might as well close up the cloud flaps just to warm up the engines a bit. So CALB flaps are good. Pressurization is set, so we'll check our pressurization. So we got our cabin altitude is climbing slowly, 500 feet. Oxygen level is good, and we have our differential is climbing as well. So the cabin looks good. Oxygen is checked, and altimeter is 2992 when we get to, we'll do that when we go through transition there. Okay, so that's our climb checklist. Next will be the cruise checklist. So now we're looking pretty good. We got about up to 21,000 feet. We got about maybe another 8-9 minutes to get to top of climb. Okay, we're above the cloud. I can shut off the ice, so I'll turn the pitot heat and the window heat off. So that's good. I'll leave the pitot heat on though. And we're going through 10,000 feet. Landing light is off. Yeah, so that looks good. So that is our climb check. Next will be our cruise when we level off. So I'll check in with you when we get to the top of climb, and we will we'll set up for our cruise portion of our flight. We'll see you there in a little bit. Welcome back. We're just coming up to 20,000 feet, 1,000 feet below. There's our altitude alert. And with these turbochargers, the performance, you're able to maintain that steady climb. If it's really warm, it's usually about 1,000 feet. You can get up to 1,500 feet. It's pretty cold where we are today. See the outside air temperature is pushing -40 right now. So with those turbochargers, it maintains pretty good performance all the way to cruise, all the way to the critical altitude, which is about this altitude. If you keep climbing higher up to 300, the manifold pressure will start dropping off now above this altitude. But we're just going to 21, so we're good. So it's going to capture the altitude, and I'll just let it select. I'll just let it accelerate before I bring the power back. I'm not going to bring it back too much. So we're just going to accelerate. And I did the flight plan based on, so I'll grab a cruise performance chart here. So this is, you get this from Flysimware, and this is your cruise performance chart. So we have standard conditions, 20 degrees below standard and 20 above standard, and then you select the nearest altitude. So we're going to select 20,000 feet, and I did the flight plan based on 2,300 RPM and 34 inches of manifold pressure. So we're going to be pretty close to this one here, so we should be looking for 220 true with a fuel flow of 314. And the way I do that is, so I'll bring back the prop, so I'll take the prop sync off, bring it back to 2,300 RPM. Okay, there's 2,300 RPM. Put this prop sync back on, and I'll set 34 inches of manifold pressure. And then you'll see right now we've got about 317 on the fuel flow, pounds per hour. The way I lean the engines is you look at your, so we've already leaned them a little bit. So if I add some mixture and see these exhaust gas temperatures increase, so what I'll do is I'll pull the mixture back till we peak, and then I'll go about 50 to 75 lean a peak. So there's peak there, and I'll go down to about 1475. And see what we get from fuel flow. So that looks pretty good. So I got about 280 pounds an hour. And if I go to the chart, for standard, this we should be 289, so that's pretty close. And colder should be a little bit higher, but we'll take that. Then we look at our true air speed, and we should be pretty close to 220, and you can see that right there. So let's do our cruise check. So power is set, mixtures are set, propeller synchronizes on, pressurization is good. So we just checked our cabin altitude is leveled off with our max differential, and we're showing 7,000 feet of cabin altitude. So that looks good. Oxygen level is still good. So that is the cruise checklist. So next I'll talk about, we didn't get a chance to see it. I was hoping we'd pick up some icing, but another great icing feature is the boots. So we're just going to turn here, going to next waypoint, which is Rochester. So let's put Rochester in our, so we'll put Rochester in, and we get Rochester on the number 1 needle here, and DME for the Rochester as well. Okay, so we'll set our course of 109. Center up our heavy bug. Pretty good tailwind here, just a little bit from the left. And you can see Rochester beacon correlates with that as well. So 25 miles back from Rochester, 26 miles. And if you want to listen to the idents for Rochester, you can just choose your audio panel and choose nav 1, get your idents. Okay, yeah, so I wanted to show you the wing anti-ice. So this plane uses boots, and what you do is if you cycle the boots, it's going to clear the ice off the wing. So it's going to cycle the wings, and then it's going to cycle the tail after. So you go down here and you select surface de-ice, and you just put it forward, and then you'll see the boots expand, and the animation on here is really well done. And if there's ice on here, if you see ice on the wing, it'll actually disappear after it cycles through this. If you're still in icing, it will show a little bit of icing, but usually it'll clear it all when you're out of icing. So it's going through its cycle, and then it'll deflate. And it does that with both wings, and now it's going to be cycling through the tail, the empennage, and the elevator, horizontal stab, and the rudder. So that's your de-icing, and it works really well. And if we were still in icing, it would still show a little bit of icing. But if there was icing and you weren't in icing anymore, it should clear pretty much up. So really nice animation. I think it's really really cool feature to have. Very realistic. You might see some icing going into Albany, so we'll take a look at that if we do get it. So I'll put the other map up here. Nice thing about the GTNs is you can configure these different. So I've got ground speed, distance to my next waypoint, direct track, I got the wind. But on this one here, I got distance to destination, I've got ETE to destination, keep direct track up here, and then I've got elapsed time to the next waypoint. So nice handy features. You can have multiple items on here. You can also switch these. There's now a new feature where you can just toggle. Sorry, if you hit this down here. So you see this little green indicator up here. So you can create different. So I'm on number 2. You can actually, if you have one GTN, you can just have multiple windows set up for different things. So you can cycle back and forth. But it's nice having 2 because then you just keep it on the 2. Okay, so let's get some weather for Albany. So I'll go down to Waypoint Info Airport. We got Albany. We'll get the weather data there. Right now, it's windy there. Well, 260, 19 gusting, 24. Good visibility, broken cloud, 6,000 scattered, 2,400. Temperature 0. Altimeter 3,000 when we need it. So yeah, so that's pretty good. Okay, so we will now get our chart for the approach we're going to do in Albany. Actually, I'll put the chart on this side here. We'll just keep the map up over here. So go back, hit the chart, and I think for the approach into Albany, we're just going to do the VOR approach. So the VOR for 28. Yeah, so that's going to be the approach we're going to do into Albany here. So we'll take a look at that. Now we can plan our descent. There's no VNAV function on this airplane. There's a VNAV button up here, but it doesn't do anything. Not part of the autopilot. So what we'll do is, but you can calculate a VNAV profile using the GTN750 here. It's under utilities. Another thing that's just recently added is the ability to do your airspeed check, true airspeed check. So we'll use our sensor data, and we got a true airspeed of 224. We look over here. Yeah, it's pretty close. Got about maybe 216 there for true airspeed. So now we'll do our VNAV calculation. So now we're going to go to our approach. So what I'll do is I'll just bring up the sim brief over here real quick, the approach we're going to be doing. So we're going direct. Albany VOR is our last waypoint, and we're going to transition off Albany, and we want to start this at min safe, which will be 3,600 feet coming in from this direction. So we're going to descend at 3,600 feet. So we want to hit that beacon at 3,600. So we'll put our target altitude 3,600. That's MSL. We'll do 1,000 feet per minute. We'll do 0 miles before, and Albany ALB will be the waypoint. Albany. So now you can see our descent. If we just started now, it would be 400 feet per minute, but in 22 minutes, 1,000 feet per minute will get us down to 3,600 feet at Albany. So I can keep that there, or I can just come back and check it every once in a while. So we'll come back and check it a little bit. Another thing we can do is see is our elapsed time. So that would be at 46 minutes. This is our flight time. So 46 minutes is when we want to start our descent into Albany. So we can just remember that as well. Okay, so that's our descent plan. So what I'll do is I'll brief the approach, and then we will. There's arriving at Rochester. Our next waypoint is going to be Syracuse, and we can put Syracuse frequency in the backup for there. And our track outbound is now 198. We'll adjust that. Our heady bug. Good. We can look at our flight plan, and we can kind of do a fuel check over Albany. So we go to raw data. We get our flight plan here. We can see over Albany. Of course, we're over. We were just over. Rochester was our waypoint. So if we go down to Rochester, our fuel remaining estimated fuel on board over Rochester should be 305 pounds. And we can see we're just a little ahead of that, 324, so that's good because our fuel burn is a little less than we had planned. So yeah, so that's looking good for a fuel check. Okay, so we'll briefly approach, just kind of show you the route here. So we took off out of Toronto, we're just going south of Lake Ontario. We're just over Rochester, going over Syracuse and coming into Albany, and then this is the VOR approach. So the approach we're going to do is the VOR. We can use the GPS or we can use the raw data VOR to shoot this approach. The weather's fine, so I think that we'll just use the raw data VOR. So we're going to do the full procedure turn over Albany, so we'll get the ATIS, we can tune that in, and 124.5, we'll put that in. That'll be in the backup when we get a little closer. Okay, so the final approach course will be, so we need a frequency 115.3, we'll dial that in when we get closer to Albany. Final approach course is 275, we're going to cross the FAF inbound at 2,300 feet. Down to an MDA of 780 feet. That's 495. So we can set that up on our RADALT here. So our RADALT we can put in at 495. And that's just an advisory. Really, your missed approach is going to be based off your altimeter here. So MDA is 780 feet. Temperature is 0, so we'll keep it at 780 feet. You should temperature correct really at 0, maybe add about 40 feet to that, so we'll make it 820 feet. Runway elevation is 285, and the venomous approach is going to be climbing to 3,000 left turn, 4,000 back to the Albany VOR, hold is published. So that's the missed approach. So for the procedure turn, what we're going to do is we're going to cross over the VOR, and we're going to track 295 outbound. And we're going to go outbound past Langy, which is at 5.4 miles. And then we're going to do 1 minute outbound, 1 minute left turn, 1 minute right turn for a procedure turn. And then we're going to track back inbound 275. And then in the procedure turn, we can descend down to 3,300 feet. Once we're established inbound within 10 miles, we can descend down to 2,300 feet till Langy, which is at 5.4 miles. And then we can go down to our minimums of the MDA of, we'll say, 820 feet with the temperature correction. Okay, so that is the approach we're going to do. So we've still got a little ways to go to our 18 minutes to go till our top descent. So what I'll do is I'll check in with you closer to top of descent, and we will talk about the descent procedure that we're going to use for this arrival into Albany. Everything looks good right now. Check our T's and P's are all good. Fuel is good. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. I turned up the cabin heat. It was getting pretty cold in here. The only way to see the cabin heat is to look on your tablet here. You can see it's actually really cold. So I got the cabin heater on. I've got the thing, everything cranked up here. So not sure why it's so cold. Doesn't help that it's minus 35. I guess I should turn the blower on maybe. So they got, these switches are hard to get at down here. So I put the blower in low, and hopefully that'll bring our heat up. We'll check in that a little further along as well. Okay, so I'll check in with you closer to top of descent, and we'll see how things are looking. See you there in a bit. Welcome back. We're a few minutes back from our top of descent. Another 4 minutes actually. Got the cabin temperature up in the green there. Turning the blower on helped bring it up, and then I also had to play around with the temperature setting here a little bit to get it up. So it should be fine. Just got to remember though, I'm probably going to have to turn it down a little bit, quite a bit as we descend, because otherwise it'll get way too hot. I guess that's one thing we can't simulate heat-wise. It'd be nice if we had a little temperature gauge or something inside here. Otherwise you have to go to the tablet to find out what it is. So I'll just get rid of that. So I'm going to start our descent in 3 minutes here. So the way I start the descent is, I've never flown the Cessna 414 or any of the Cessna 400 models like the 404 or the, 402 or the 421. So I'm not 100% sure if this is correct or not, but from what I've read, that you want to be very careful. You don't want to shock cool the aircraft. So the way I've been doing the descents is I will dial in 1,000 feet per minute rate of descent, and I'll start that down 1,000 feet per minute, and then I'll just slowly bring back manifold pressure till I get to somewhere between 25 and 2700 or 27 inches of manifold. And once I get that, then I shouldn't have to change the power too much until we land on the approach. And then what I'll do is, so on the way down, I'll initially just drop like 100, and then every few minutes I'll drop 100 until we get down to that range. I'll use 25 today because it's cold, but if it's warm I'll use 27. And then that will get me down, once I level off, to below 170 knots, which is my first selection of flap, 171. And also I can select the gear down at 177. So as long as I get down below around 170, then that will keep the give me the options to get some drag out without having to change the power too much. Yeah. So another thing you have to be careful is if you bring the power back. So if I brought back the power to idle, look what happens to the EGT. It goes right off the green here. You want to keep that EGT above 1350. So put it back up to manifold here. So that's another reason why you don't want to bring back. So you're going to shock cool those engines if you bring back the power too abruptly. So we're just coming up on another minute and 43 seconds to go. So like I said, I'll dial down to, so we'll go down to our mid-sector altitude of 3,600 feet, and I'll just incrementally, I'll dial up 1,000 feet per minute down, and then we will we'll slowly bring back this power until we hit about 25, and then that way we keep the engines nice and warm all the way down. And we want to monitor our cylinder head temperature, and we want to keep this EGT in the green all the way down. So that's how we're going to do it. So I'll dial up. So we're tracking inbound to Albany VOR now. Got another 82 miles to go. I'll dial up 3,600 feet. There's 3,600 feet, my altitude window. And once we hit that top of descent in 30 seconds, I'll just dial 1,000 foot per minute down. And then I'll start off, I'll bring it back to, I'll bring back 100 at a time every minute or two until we get back to that 2,500. The speed will build up, that's fine. It'll build up initially close to 200 knots, but then once we start getting closer back to 2,500 inches of manifold pressure, it should trail off a bit. It'll still be a bit fast, but then as soon as we level off, it'll come back below 170, and then we have the option of selecting flapper gear to help us slow down without having to change that power setting too much. Okay, so we're just coming up to 1,000 feet per minute, so I'll select vertical speed, and then I'll just slowly dial down, and I'll bring it back to 34. We'll get 1,000 feet per minute going. Then we'll go back to our checklists, and we'll do our checklist. So checklist, pressurization. Now we want to set our landing elevation. So we said the airport elevation is 285. So we want 285 plus 500, so 785. And the cabin altitude, we want to set that at around 785. So pretty close. So you can see our cabin starting to descend now. Okay, so pressurization set, fuel selectors, we want to verify they're on the main tank. They're both on the main tank. Mixtures, we need to adjust to keep in the green here, so they're fine. Altimeter's set, so let's get our altimeter setting because we're going to be going through a transition here momentarily. So go to Airport Albany, get our weather, and the altimeter is 3000. So I'll set that over here. So 3000, and we're going to continue our descent, so I'll put 3000 up here as well. Okay, so altimeters are set. Avionics, we're not going to load the approach, we're going to use the raw VOR, so we can tune up the VOR now. So there's the Albany VOR. We can see now Albany 69 miles. That correlates with our track coming inbound, so that looks good. Okay, avionics are set. Radar altimeter set for minimum, so we've set that. And that is our approach descent checklist. Next is going to be before landing checklist. Okay, so we'll monitor our descent. If I go out, back to map, and we should see our banana bar right around Albany there. It's just past Albany, so I might have to increase that descent, so let's go. Yeah, so I need to go about 1100 feet per minute. Okay, I'll take off another inch manifold pressure. See the speed is belt up a little bit, just under 200, 190 knots indicated, that's fine. So we'll just keep every minute or so, a couple minutes, we'll bring back 1 inch manifold, and we'll just cross-check and make sure that our temperatures are all good, and we want to stay in this green band. Looking good. So that's the descent, we'll keep that going. Transition, we've set 3000, and we'll continue. So I'll check in with you a little further along the descent here, and we will we'll see how this is looking. Welcome back. We're just coming into cloud here, going through 12,000 feet, so I'm going to get my prop de-ice on and my windshield anti-ice low. Well, those are anti-icing features. The wing is a de-icing feature, so you wait for ice to accumulate on the wing and then you de-ice the wing. But the anti-ice is for the window and the prop, or you turn them on when you enter visible moisture below freezing. And you could even go to high on the windshield, but we're not going to go through very much cloud here, so I'll see if we pick up any icing. So we're back at 30 inches of manifold. Speed is still pretty good. I'll take another inch off. You can see we're going to hit Albany at our target altitude. Looks pretty good. Descent is going nicely. And we'll bring it all the way back to 2,500, so we still got a ways to go. And let's get some ATIS for Albany.
Albany Airport information, Quebec 21000, wind 284 at 16, visibility 10, sky condition, few clouds at 3,000 feet, ceiling 4,400 feet overcast, temperature -1, dew point 10, altimeter 29.908, visual runway 28 in use, landing and departing runway 28, VFR aircraft say direction of flight, all aircraft red back hold short instructions, advise controller on initial contact you have Quebec.
Okay, so the weather, we got 2998, strong winds out of the west, runway 28, we're planning the VOR 28 full procedure. Okay, just coming through 10,000 feet, we'll get our landing light on. You'll see the lights extend. So if you want the landing lights on, you need to do it a few seconds ahead of time because you need to give them time to extend. And when they're extended, they'll come on. And these are LEDs, so they're pretty bright. Okay, I'll drop another inch of manifold pressure. Just monitoring our temperatures are good. Cylinder head temperature is pretty good. Getting a little cool, but we have the CAL flaps closed, so too much we can do different there. I can lower that rate of descent down to 900. Okay, since we're going to use, we're not using the GPS for the approach, we're using raw data. So our inbound track is 117, so the 117. And now I can switch over to, I might as well switch over to the Albany VOR. So we have the Albany VOR identified, ALB VOR 115.3. So if I go to VOR loc, and then now it goes to roll mode, and I can select nav again, and now I'm tracking the VOR inbound. So what I'm going to do is continue to do that. Rate of descent's going good. I don't really need that anymore. So let's go get our chart up here. And then, so what's going to happen is when I hit Albany, I'm going to track outbound of 095. So that will be our outbound track we need to go. And then I'm going to maintain the 3,600 feet till we hit Langy, which is at 5.4, and then we're going to continue outbound, and then we'll do a procedure turn, descending to 3,300 feet, and we'll do that. And then when we go, we'll go 1 minute from Langy, 1 minute left turn, right turn, back inbound to intercept. So I need to select my timer set up there. So let's put our lapse time, and then we'll hit run to do our minute timing outbound. So that's looking good. So the descent's coming on nicely here. Doesn't look like we're picking up any icing. It's probably too cold. And I'll bring another inch of manifold pressure off. So I'll bring it back to 25, and then when we hit 3,600 and we level off, the speed should come back just under 170, and then we should be able to leave that speed there. We'll do the whole procedure turn at that speed, whatever we have for 2,500 manifold pressure. Keep the props at 23, and then we will start configuring to slow down once we come inbound for the approach. Looking pretty good. Picking up any icing there? No, it doesn't look like it. Just coming through the cloud here now. Break out around, should be no lower than 5,000 feet, I think they said. Yeah, this is a great airplane. It's really one of my favorite GA airplanes. It's there's another one, Milvez 310, Cessna 310. Twin Cessna is supposed to be a great airplane as well. The advantage of this one is it's a little bit faster and it's a pressurized cabin, which I don't think the 310 is. So I highly recommend this plane. It's available in the marketplace. I think it's available for Xbox as well. We're just coming through the cloud there nicely. Give a little, once we get clear of the cloud here, I'll give a little run cycle of the boots just to get any ice off in case there was any. Okay, looking good. Once we hit the Albany VOR, we're going to track outbound 095, 5.4 DME, so our DME is up here. The one needle is on nav. That looks good. You can also put in the frequency in here as well, 15.3. Oops. And then we can tune this up as well, so we can put our outbound track of 095 as a reference for when we go outbound as well. We're tracking 2, and then if you want to switch your DME to nav 2, so right now, I mean it's the same one, but there's nav 2. Okay, looking good. I'll bring back another inch of manifold. Monitoring our temperatures. Everything looks good. Dial the cabin temperature, go up and down a little bit, 1,000 feet to go. And since we're not using the GPS, we can just put it in CDI mode, and we can put our inbound track of 275 just as a reference. Oh no, that's only for doing the GPS, sorry. Well, I'll have to go back to GPS mode, and I'll just take, it's in roll right now, I'll just put in 275. Oh no, back to OBS. 275. There we go. And go back to Warlock, and we'll put in our course of inbound that we're center up the track bar here. 6. Engage nav, VOR, and we're looking at crossing the station. Okay, I'll set 25. That's our final power change now for a while. We're tracking inbound. So we're Vorloke, VOR, and then once we cross the station, we're going to go outbound 095. So we'll look for the to from needle to switch here. And I'll put it in heading for now. We'll put dial 095. Come a left turn. Maintaining 3,600 feet. You can see now our speed has come back to that nice 170. Okay, I'm going to shut off the prop de-ice and the windshield de-ice. And we're looking at picking up that 195, and we're going out to 5.4 miles. You see that right here, 5.4 to Langy, and then we can descend down to 3,300 feet. And then we're going to go a minute on our time, so we need to get that ready as well. So now I can track nav outbound, VOR. So we're tracking 095 outbound. Actually, OBS, I want 095 enter, yeah, okay. There we go, there's our OBS track, just for reference. But we're still tracking Warlock, so. Okay, looking 5.4, there we go, let's start our timer. So run, we're gonna go down to 3,300 feet. We'll just do vertical speed, and just do 400 feet a minute. And then what we do is we go outbound for a minute, and then we do a left turn to a heading of 050. And then we can actually do these legs for, we don't have to do a full minute, we can do that for 45 seconds and then turn back inbound. So there's 28 seconds. I'll just center up my heading bug. Timer's running. Wait for a minute, and then I'll engage heading select. Okay, we're captured at 3,300 feet. We maintain that for the rest of the procedure turn. Okay, there's a minute, so I go heading, and we'll turn left to 050. Oops, heading 050. And we'll dial in our inbound course of 275 for our inbound track. Okay, now we'll start our time again. So we'll zero it, and we'll run it, and we'll do 45 seconds outbound on this hockey stick light, we call it. Still maintaining 3,300 feet for the procedure turn. Once we're inside 10 DME, then oh, we lost our DME. Why did we lose our DME? 15.3. Oh, okay, there we go. Cut that off by mistake. So, okay, 10 seconds ago, then we make a right turn of heading 230. Okay, that's good. Right turn heading 230. So then we're going to come back on the intercept, come back in the 275. Once we're within 10 miles, we can descend down to 2,300 feet on the inbound leg. See, this 2,500 RPM or manifold pressure keeps me right around that 170 mark. I can put out one notch of flap, or I can put the gear down to keep my speed under control. So when we start the next descent, I'm going to put out the first notch of flap, and then I'm going to start the descent, so the speed doesn't speed up on me on the descent. Checking our T's and P's are still in the green. Everything's looking good. Okay, now we're inbound, and I can arm the approach, or I can arm nav again for the VOR, and we should intercept the VOR. Pretty good wind pushing us here. So now we're tracking inbound on the VOR, 295. Just center my Huddy bug up. Or 275, sorry. And we're looking for 10 DME to start our next descent down to 2,300 feet. So we're below 170. I'm going to put that first notch of flap out just so I can control my speed. And I'm going to get rid of the approach chart here just to, so 2,300 till 5.4 once we're inside 10, and then we're down to our minimums, and we'll put 800 feet in for our minimums in the altitude selector, or MDA. And then the missed approach point is the VOR, but we should be visual. We should be looking at about 0.6, another mile back, so 1.6 miles is when we want to start leaving that 800 feet. Okay, I'm going to go back to the checklist now. Utilities checklist. Just coming up to inside 10, and let's start looking at our checklist here. So we're going to put our aux fuel pumps to low, and they are in low. Gear position lights to go, so we'll get the rest of our checklist once we get configured. See, the speed has come back nicely to 140, and that's the next speed that I can select on the flaps if I need to. So 140 is the next speed limit. We're just coming up on 10, so I'm going to select 2,300 feet. My altitude window, and at 10 we'll gauge vertical speed, and I'll go gear down, and I'll start going down vertical speed. Go down at about 800 feet a minute, and we're looking for 5.4, and then we can go down to our minimums of 800 feet. Okay, so we got the gear down, 3 green. Lights, we've got our landing lights on, lights are good. Wing flap, right now we're still at flap 15. And I can bring the speed back once we level off at the next segment to the next stage of flap, but we'll prop sync, we'll turn that off. Propellers, we'll go full propeller now. Cabin heat, I'll turn the cabin heat down for the landing, and I'll shut off the cabin blower. I'll shut off the cabin heat actually. The cabin heat is set, and then all we have left is our wing flaps to go for the checklist. So looking pretty good. So we're going to level up at 23. And now we're looking for 5.4 for our next stage of flap. The airport should be just right there. Yeah, straight up ahead. Yeah, this is not perfectly lined up, so speeds come back. I'll get my next, below 140, I'll get my next notch of flap out. And then landing flap will, full flap will get on short final. T's and P's are still good. We got full power, full mixture. We'll get the mixture up now. Surprised it's not part of the checklist actually. Now I want to keep just above blue line for the rest of the approach. So blue line is our best single engine rate of climb speed. So if we do lose an engine, we're already at that speed. So I might have to add a little bit of manifold pressure to keep it when we're level here. Looking for 5.4, and then we're going to go down to 800 feet. Inside, there's our configuration. So I'm going to dial down to 800 feet. There's 5.4 coming up. Select vertical speed. Go down at about 700 feet per minute. And I'll bring it back to 25 manifold power. There's 700 feet per minute. And we're going down to our 800 feet for MDA. And the misapproach point is the VOR, but we want to start our transition to the runway at about 1.6, 1.7 miles back. So you can see our banana bar is ahead of the airport there, which is looking good. Might go down to 800 feet a minute just to get down a little bit earlier. Speed is good. So wing flaps to go, so we just have our final approach flap, and we'll say our pre-landing check is complete. 1,000 feet to go. Power off, getting a little bit fast. We'll come back when we level off at that 800 feet though. Yeah, not too bad a day here in Albany. Pretty good winds though, still 23 knots. Okay, just coming up to our minimums. The runway there's the seats there, so they're looking pretty good. We're just a little bit low, so as we get closer it'll come in. So that looks good. Okay, I'm going to get autopilot off, the yaw damper off, flight director off, and we'll transition. We'll bring the power back a little bit. We'll get full flap. Bit high. There, that looks good. Signature's coming in nicely. Okay, gears down. We have land flap. A little bit high. Pretty turbulent with these winds. Ooh. Speed's good. Back on the power slowly. touchdown. We'll take the first exit past the crossing runway there. Well, welcome to Albany. That's about the perfect stage length for this aircraft, just over an hour. I mean, you can do quite a long flight in it. You can do easily a 4-hour flight in this airplane. Bring the power back, you get quite a good range, like 1,100 miles. 1,000 miles or so. Okay, just crossing the other runway. We'll exit at the first left up here. Just past here. Clear the runway, come to a stop. And the FBO is just at the far right, just straight ahead. Okay, we'll come to a stop, set our parking brake, and we'll do our after landing checklist. So aux fuel pumps can go off. So we'll shut those off. Cowl flaps open. Wing flaps can go up. Lights, I'll go strobe light off, landing light off, get our taxi light on. Wing flaps are up, lights are good. Radar altimeter I'll set to 0. Hate it when this thing does that. Okay, radar altimeter is off. Ice protection, we get our pitot heat off. All the other ice protection is off. And that's it. So next is our parking checklist. Parking brake off. And we'll taxi in. The FBO, I think, is just down up this area here, so let's taxi in. Pretty quiet day here in Albany. I don't think I have the traffic on, that's why. Close those. Sorry, open those. Okay, I think the next right, Millionaire, we'll park there. Yeah, so that was a good flight. Hope you enjoyed it. Enjoyed today's flight, make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe, sign up for notifications so you'll see videos like that when I put them out in the future. This is truly a great airplane. I highly recommend it for anybody that likes this type of GA flying. It is a very nice airplane. I think for the next flight we'll head back to New Zealand and we'll do a VFR leg in this through the mountains, and I'll show you how I set up the flight plan for a VFR flight. And for that flight we won't use the autopilot at all. The airplane trims up really nicely and it's a pleasure to fly with the autopilot. I'm going to park this way, buddy. Okay, we'll set the parking brake. Okay, aux fuel pumps are off. Landing lights are down. We'll get the taxi light off. Taxi lights off. Avionics we can shut off. Oh, and then that's the rest of our checklist. So we'll have to go up and get the checklist from the tablet for the rest of it. That's the problem with having those checklists on the. We go with the shutdown checklist. So avionics are off. Alternators go off. Okay, cabin heat is required, so we got the cabin heat off, and all the knobs are pushed in. Then we'll go mixture idle cutoff. Engines wind down to a halt, and you can actually hear the ticking from the heat as the heat cools off the engines here. It's cold. Okay, mixture's idle cutoff. Magnetos can go off. So you can hit the gang bar to get them all off there. And battery switch off. And there we go. That's our flight in the... Then we can open the cabin door, put in our chocks, put in our heater covers, static wicks, engine plugs. We can put those in, and then we're good to go. And we'll open up our left wing locker and the nose door right there. Yeah, great airplane. Enjoy that flight. Hope you enjoyed it too. We'll try another flight in the 414. I'm also contemplating taking a look at the Baron when it comes out. The Black Squares put out a steam gauge version of the Bonanza and the Baron, and I think the Baron comes out on Thursday, so I might take a look at that airplane. That'd be another great airplane to fly. The Black Square King Air is awesome, and I think that would be a good adaptation to the this stock Baron that's in the sim as well. So might have a look at that, but we'll do one more flight in the 414 for sure, a VFR flight. So it should be a good trip. So thanks for joining me. Look forward to seeing you next time on the Bandit Flight Simulator channel. Bandit out.